your reps for new projects claim that they won't add significantly to noise or traffic in our neighborhoods, and then to hear the planning board read out loud the negative declaration document that promises that this is true. Ask any of us who already have to live with similar effects. Ask the folks on Beaver Dam Road about the promises made to them by UNFI. Ask the folks who live on Ager Road, including the historic Ager House, how well they can sleep at night and what their homes are worth now if they can somehow miraculously find a buyer for a house that literally vibrates from the noise. Progress does not mean the complete destruction of what exists in order to replace it with something new. Your actions are literally destroying people's homes. The latest example of that is the houses on Goodwill Road that have had forested areas removed right up to their property lines without any buffer or setback from the latest inappropriately sited warehouse across from ShopRite. Soon residents will be doing their grocery shopping amidst trucks coming and going from the two warehouses you've approved to be built on what should more appropriately be a local shopping center. Was any thought or care given to the flooding that will result from the moonscape that's been created there as a result of the removal of acres of trees and the leveling of the hill that served as a vital part of that local watershed and natural flood control? Enough. There must be a stop to the chaotic, destructive, so-called development that is taking place in this town. This has become a culture of destruction. The successful farms that are left in this town have to fight for their survival against you, our local government, and your role in every foolish proposal from junkyards to huge warehouses that leaves the destruction of our vital, precious natural resources in its wake. We must protect our watersheds. People live and work here, raise families here, raise our food here. Where is the concern for clean water and clean air for future generations? We are destroying any chance they have for a healthy life filled with creative possibilities. Your decisions and actions have us all so roiled up and angry. They leave nothing but monstrously expensive problems to solve in ugly, noisy, uninspiring surroundings. We must work together and do better than this. We all have much too much to lose. What is being destroyed is not replaceable. There will be no going back. The choices we make now determine whether our children will thank us or curse us. We are rushing headlong to hell. Please put the brakes on. Let's press pause. Call for a moratorium now. The planning board is overwhelmed with over 60 applications, 2 of which are potentially the largest warehouses in Orange County, whose scale alone has residents gravely concerned. We must look at the big picture, the cumulative effects of all these projects added to what we already struggle with, traffic, noise, deleterious effects on our water resources, must be carefully studied. Let's work together on a comprehensive plan that makes sense, one that has balance built into it and a promise of a vital, productive future for us all. Please.
Is Mr. Bistrike, is he still here? No. Okay. Joe Deneen is here, right? Joe Deneen had some questions about the Holden Mansion rooms.
Have your name and address just
You know me.
for the record?
Susan Cockburn, Indian Hill, Montgomery.
Thank you.
Okay? Unfortunately, I know what you did bringing in that man, you know, that
Far?
Engineer?
Mr. Farr,
Why did the board did, that's what it is.
but it was your initiative, wasn't it?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
It was actually, the 2 councilmen weren't here.
Okay, good.
You know,
Because this place has been neglected for a long time. And the Holden Mansion ruins, you were asking about, we have an historic preservation commission and we've been trying to do things with that. We tried to turn it over to the county since the town wasn't doing any maintenance or any investing any time and energy into studies for it and how to develop it. And Brescia didn't want it. So you can come to one of our Historic Preservation Commission meetings and they have the information that the board doesn't have. Okay, what I wanted to talk about here, oh, and clean air quality, you were worried about how much Lou Doro was getting paid. Well, it's good if he does get paid more than you think he should, because you remember you rezoned the spot zoning, that property on Montgomery Heights, because he had to put, the guy that was waving that thing around, the hubcap of the Northeast, he was saying how it was industrial, and, you know, there's nothing about that in any of the zoning. It doesn't say we're the hubcap of the Northeast, okay? So, that's an old insignia with pictures of old things that don't even travel the roads or fly in the skies anymore. That's a prop plane, okay? So your zoning is still from there, and nobody here ever said, let's comprehensively, you know, okay, we know that. You spot zoned that property on Montgomery Heights for the Volvo truck dealership, that when I researched the paperwork, it also had autos. That property is for sale. There's no Volvo truck dealership. So Lou Doro is gonna be sitting in the house he invested his life in, looking at whatever, because it was spot zoned. You overrode the planning board's recommendations not to do it. Okay, so that's the Lou Doro, and that doesn't come out of my time, because you guys should have known that and not made that mistake. You didn't even have the zoning code in front of you. You pitched it back to the guy that was waving the hubcap around and said, why don't you tell the residents of Montgomery Heights what the zoning change is gonna mean? No one, not one of you had the paperwork in front of you. So that's that. Here's why I'm here now. In 2016, the EPA found that the air pollutant ethylene oxide was more dangerous than previously thought. The report officially changed ethylene oxide's classification. Now this is scientific universal classification from probable carcinogen to officially carcinogenic to humans. Now this EPA report states that cancer risk is 30 times worse than previous estimates. It is a clear gas that was already known to cause tumors of the brain, lung, breast, uterus, and lymph system cancers, as well as neurological damage. The EPA, because we know how things work in government, still has not set limits on ethylene oxide. And since the new president came in office and put people that aren't scientists on the EPA, there's even less likely that it'll happen. But the EPA still hasn't set limits on ethylene oxide. But more than 100 census tracts around this country have elevated cancer risks due to ethylene oxide pollution. There's a small city between Chicago and Milwaukee, and it's the biggest source of pollution. The biggest source of pollution there, rather, is the Medline facility, okay? This is a home rule state. They're not gonna come in and tell you to look, what to look for, and especially with, you know, lobbyists and whatnot. So on June 19th in 2019, this year, Medline's Illinois headquarters, which uses ethylene oxide to sterilize equipment, the report says they're gonna sterilize equipment here. They released 2,863 pounds of ethylene oxide into the air in 2017. It caused the census tract there to have a cancer risk of 157 per million, or 5 times the national average. That's one little city between 2 big ones. The EPA sent federal officials to the city to explain the risk only after the local population made the report public. No one was going around going, oh, we really blew it. We let all this gas in the air. People were getting sick, and everybody was doing what they're doing here tonight, asking.
Can I, do you have that report so you can have it for the board?
Yeah.
Just so
I don't have it with me. I
Oh.
took notes from it, but I got it over there
Yeah, just so
already.
you can get a copy
But
of
you
it,
know
just so-
what?
yeah.
You guys up there should be looking at this stuff yourselves before you're giving out special permits. You really So here's the rest of this. I think everybody needs to hear this, okay?
I've got another report, that's what they're,
You get it, and you know what? You can even Google it and find it yourself.
well, help me have a report.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
Okay.
I got it, and I'll give it to you, because you guys didn't get it yourselves. Seriously, did you look and see what they were gonna do there? It's just, okay, I'm gonna tell you the rest of this. The EPA, okay, the Federal Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry released their report, and the citizens seized upon it in November, and by February, the plant was closed. Medline and Gurney continue to emit the chemical. There are other scientific choices and methods of sterilization, but this is the fastest, okay?
Ma'am, you're over.
What?
You're over to 5 minutes.
You can have my 5
I'll
minutes.
tell you.
You can have my 5 minutes.
When I was supervisor, I let everybody talk as much as they want, even when they were flapping their lips over nonsense. This is important.
You have the report with you, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Well,
She
so
said that
everybody gets-
already.
Everybody gets 5 minutes for you.
It's okay with
You
me.
can have my 5 minutes.
Were you gonna tell anybody this?
Huh?
Were you gonna tell anybody any of this? Did
usually-
Cindy Voss look it up? Did Sherry Mellick look it
Well,
up?
that's just
Did
a
anybody?
report.
I'll give it to you, but I think the people here should know, because I have a feeling no one's gonna tell them.
That's a better
Susan,
thing.
take my 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You can take my 5
Please, just let her
minutes.
talk.
Go ahead.
So the EPA studied this for years. They didn't get their conclusion or the definitive findings, and none of it yet has been translated into any federal, state, or local regulations that people can use to protect themselves, to stop themselves from being in proximity to these emissions. And it's technically, therefore, still legal to use it, but it's immoral, okay? It's cheaper to prevent pollution than to clean it up. And I just want to say one thing here. It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends upon his not understanding it. Okay? We got a problem here. And Joe Keenan, you're probably going to hear from some residents, because Orange County Partnership was pushing in Sailfish and Medline. Well, the people that are on it, Jeff Christ, Andrew Featherstone. Well, Jeff Christ is the IDA chair for the town. Andrew Featherstone is the planning engineer for the planning board. He's also the co-chair of ABG, which is an offshoot of our Orange County Planning Partnership. Lincoln Tully, the town engineer, is on it. And I see your name, Mr. Dubois, that you're on Orange County Partnership. So
I resigned.
you did,
At
okay,
least a
good.
year ago, if not longer.
Okay, well, it's still showing up when people Google it.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me know that.
Welcome.
I'm Barbara Lerner. I own the property on the corner of Route 747 and 17K. We've owned that property since the mid-70s and had an industrial building at that site. I'm glad to see that you, as members of the board, are finally moving ahead with a comprehensive plan. This is long overdue and very, very welcome. Many other people have spoken here regarding a moratorium that we have requested in the past. I'd like to address a different issue, and this is largely from a document from the New York State of Opportunity, Division of Local Government Services, Land Use Moratoria. This is your way forward to be able to enact a moratorium on warehousing. In the beginning, they asked, the purpose of a moratorium on land development preserves the status quo while the municipality updates its comprehensive plan. So why adopt a moratorium? Number one, to prevent the rush for development. There are more warehouse proposals on the table right now and over the past 2 years than ever before. This certainly does constitute a rush for this type of development. Two, to prevent the inefficient or ill-conceived growth. The warehouse industry itself is changing, largely due to automation. These are jobs of the past and not for the future. These projects will forever change both the physical environment and the character of our community. Three, and they itemize each one of these to address a new kind of use, wind or solar, solid waste, junkyards. You have already enacted and previously adopted a solar moratorium specifically for this reason. 4, you need to prevent hasty decisions that would disadvantage landowners and the public. The developers of these huge projects are putting excessive pressure on the town and planning boards to approve these projects without complete and honest disclosure. There are numerous errors and omissions in their application. They very often mislead both the boards and the public to believe that their project will have minimal impact, knowing that our towns and village code enforcement and law enforcement are stretched so thin to not have the manpower to police the construction or operation of these projects. And lastly, to prevent the immediate construction that may be inconsistent with provisions of a future plan. Almost all of these projects require either a zoning change or a special use permit in order to move forward. Now, there are 3 criteria that need to be met in order to enact a moratorium. The municipality, which is you, must establish that, number 1, it acted responsibly to a dire need. The traffic alone from these projects will be untenable. The intersection at 747 and 17K is one of the most dangerous in New York State. The warehouses across from Berea School are in a location where children routinely walk. And property owners have had their property damaged from cars and trucks. Medline will put more cars and trucks through the village and onto secondary roads, creating an unsafe environment for everyone. The other projects will do the same. Despite the claims that these entities have made, they have no control whatsoever over the routes the cars and trucks will take once they leave their site. Route 84 is frequently shut down between exits 4 and 6. These stoppages will further exacerbate the traffic problem. Almost all of these projects create an environmental issue. Sailfish is surrounded by wetland. The 3 warehouse project across from the school borders wetland. The paved surfaces from all of these projects and developed area contains contaminants from building, from parked vehicles, from pavements, from soluble salts and other chemicals, from parking lot maintenance that will flow into wetland, into our water structure, into our aquifers. The Medline project itself sits on top of the aquifer that feeds the Hoyt wells, which I